but it doesn't have to be famous. For how much you plan to pay attention, for however much you plan to pay attention, you seem to not know.
I know. Yeah.
Ladies first, what can I say?
Okay, I'm asking for several assignments today, so if you didn't already turn these things into Google Classroom, you need to make sure you find 11, 12, 13, and any late work that you want more points for. All of that needs to be turned in before we start. Those are not due today, they're not due this class period, they're due before we start the quiz. So, if you're by your guys.
Oh, I'm searching.
So give me your assignments, and then take a seat so I can get the rest of the instructions and we can get started. Okay, normally I would ask you to put your phones up, but of course you guys should have your phones up already.
You gotta make it work.
But we can't open up other computers either.
Okay, last call. Any other assignments, 11, 12, or 13, or late work? Okay, go ahead and clear off your desk, unless you're still trying to find those things.
My name on it.
And this is no calculator. Shouldn't need a calculator for any of the questions. So once it looks like you're ready to go, start as you get it. Again, make sure your phone is put up so you don't accidentally grab it, unhab it. And I guess calculators as well. Okay, so one thing, since this is our first assessment of the year, you'll notice that I don't tell you how to number this, and that's because the major assessments, we do try to reuse parts and pieces of those, so you won't get to get this back to keep in your binder. I will keep it in the classroom. You're always welcome to come see it during advisory and all that kind of stuff. But for that reason, it doesn't go in your binder, so the actual quiz doesn't have a number assigned to it. In place of that, what we have is a reflection. So one of the two handouts, you don't have to worry about this right now if you didn't do it already, but when you're done with the quiz, one of the two handouts is a reflection. Just talks about how you thought you were going to do versus how you felt afterwards versus how you scored. But probably more importantly, and especially for those of you that had pre-cal last year with me, because you were used to me doing that with you last year, I don't look at those. Those are really for your information, but those are more important for calculus, especially the questions like, what do I wish I had practiced more? What do I wish I had memorized? That stuff's going to be obvious to you at the end of this quiz, but in March, April, when we're worried about the AP exam, you're not going to remember which things you wish you had practiced more from limits. So make sure you fill out that reflection with fidelity, please. So I can give you roughly the first half of class here. As you guys finish, just make sure your name's on it. Come turn it into the basket, please. And then wait quietly for everyone else to finish. And once we are there, we will use roughly the second half of class to start on the next topic. And of course, you guys are welcome to ask if you need some clarification about the directions, but I can't help you with the math. Of course, you should also consider trying to check your work if you have extra time. Also, I guess this shouldn't change how you approach your work or your questions or anything. Bless you. But case it matters to you, the free response on the back page is going to be worth 9 points total. All free responses we ever do will be out of 9. That's how your AP exam does it. The other 13 questions will be 1 point each. So that actually puts it at 22. But again, I'm only going to grade it out of 20. So you're getting 2 freebies. So you can actually miss 2 questions or 2 points and still make 100. We honestly curve our other assessments a little bit more, but this one doesn't have many AP level questions on it. That's why it's only 2 point curve or 2 freebie points. It does say that you can dismiss that point, so that is 5 points, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Johnson, can we do a calculator for this part?
You can if you want it. I don't know that you need it, but you can use a calculator on the FRQ on the back if you need to. I would suggest maybe start it without one, and then if you decide you need one, come borrow one. Again, no calculator on any other part, but on the back it does say you can use a calculator if you want to.
What's wrong with those?
Oh, there it goes. Just turn it okay when we're finished.
You got your name on it?
Yep.
For this one, oh sorry. If it has like a circle and a point, do we just put a point?
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put your graded homework papers over here in this box. So if you finish early, if you finish your quiz earlier than other people and we haven't moved on, consider coming by and taking your papers back for your binder. And if it's busy or you don't have time to do it today, that's fine, but they will be there waiting for you. if you are still working, that is okay. You're welcome to take a few extra minutes. As you finish up though, just come put it in the basket over here, and the rest of us can move on. And if you are needing a couple extra minutes, the stuff that you missed you can get by watching the class recording this weekend. Okay, so again, since this is the first time I'm asking you to do this, I want to give you a moment to look at one of those two handouts you picked up on your way in. One of them is a little unit reflection, so go ahead and fill out the top part of that. Again, to me, it's not important for your grade, but it is good for you to write down things you wish you had known or practiced more or memorized. And if you can't think of anything, maybe jot down the 2 or 3 things that you thought were the hardest. Again, I know that doesn't seem important right now, but in March it will be very nice for you to be able to look at that and see how you felt about that. Overall, what do y'all think? Harder than you expected? Easier than you expected? About the same? Okay, good. So I will do my best to actually have those grades in the grade book before I leave today. I can't promise, but I always try to. There is one catch, and that is I don't let you look at your test until they have all been made up. So first off, my B-Day classes aren't quizzing until Tuesday because they're a day behind you guys. And then for third period, we had 4 people out. So as soon as my B-Day classes take it and the people who need to make it up have taken it, then you're welcome to see yours. But you can at least see your grade in the meantime once I get those put in. Okay, the other handout you picked up is for number 15. So this is us moving into Unit 2 now. And just to be transparent with you, the good thing is if you feel like you were bad at limits, you didn't like limits for some reason, the good news is you don't have to use limits very often throughout the year. Limits will show up here and there because conceptually they're important, but as far as like 0 over 0 and stuff like that, that's not going to be a continuous thing. So that's kind of bad in a way because if you got to keep using it, you would remember it better. But this first unit does not dictate your success for the rest of the semester. On that note though, we are going to start talking about derivatives now, and 95% of the rest of the semester is going to be about derivatives. What a derivative is, how to take a derivative by hand, how to take a derivative in your calculator, and then some real world applications of derivatives. So even though to me, and hopefully you don't feel this way, but to me the first unit is kind of like just skill practice. It's kind of like Algebra 2. Here's a skill, practice it, see that you can do it. Here's another skill, practice it, and see that you can do it. Just to get some kind of exposure. Unfortunately, Unit 2 is a little bit like that too, because a lot of Unit 2 is going to be about, can you take a derivative of a function that looks like this? Or can you take a derivative of a function that looks like that? And it's very heavy algebra based. But once we get past that unit, once we get past the second unit, then we get into some much more interesting stuff. So if all of calculus was like limits, I would not enjoy teaching it personally. So just part of the gig though. Okay, so let's look at 15. We're going to talk about what a derivative is, where it comes from, talk about some of the basics, and have that as a jumping off point. Again, if you haven't done the, if you haven't finished the test reflection, please do that. You can't do the bottom part because you need to know your score to do the very bottom piece, but you can fill out the rest. Sorry, give me just 1 second. I thought I had sent this over, but I didn't.
this in sync?
I did something bad there. It was up here. I did the arithmetic correctly, I just didn't plug it in here correctly. Slope was -2. Slope was -2. So that makes this a +2. Okay, so let me... Okay, so now at x equals 1, if you just kind of, if you were to sketch in a slight linear line right there, and you counted rise over run, does -2 look like that kind of makes sense there? Okay, that's good. And then finally, what if we just went ahead and graphed this tangent line? It was -2x, and then what else? +2? Okay, so if this is correct, what should happen when I hit graph? How many times should this red line touch the blue line? Just once. And when should that happen? Very good. Exactly at x equals 1. So do you see how it's like mimicking or showing you the slope at that instant when you do that? Okay, so what I want you to get out of these last 3 questions is that it was very, very similar. We're totally different answers. Finding the derivative, again, normally you don't have to go through all this. I'm just showing you one time so that you have some background of where it comes from. If you're asked for the derivative, it's going to look like this. It's probably going to have x values in it. If you're asked for the slope of the tangent line, you just want to know at that instant, so you plug that x value into the derivative. And if you want the full equation of the tangent line, you have to plug in the slope of the tangent line at that instant and the point on the function at that time. So, to me, very, very, very similar stuff, but wildly different answers based on what you're being asked. AP exam's going to do the same thing. Question 5 might be like this. Question 11 might be like this. Very similar, but slightly different. Okay, there are times you can use a calculator on the AP exam. In fact, half of your points come from calculator questions, half of your points come from non-calculator questions. We already did this. I forgot that it was on there, but that's what I just showed you by using the calculator. So trying to give a visual of that. So even though, and this is what you're going to practice some of next class, even though the AP exam does not expect you to find a derivative like I did, by the definition, like I did in question 3, there's going to be some shortcuts there. The way they test this is by these questions down here. So I'm going to show you how to approach them. You have to memorize, not before Monday, but eventually you need to memorize the standard definition of a derivative. And there's also this alternative form. Notice it's also basically slope formula. And they just ask you to try to not do the process where you have to do all the steps, but more of like some pattern recognition. So down here, I've got a couple multiple choice questions for you to see how this works out. Look at this, and then try to compare it to one of these two. Does this look more like the standard definition or the alternate definition? Very good. One thing about the standard is that it's always h approaches 0, or x approaches 0, or whatever. But it has to approach 0 to be standard definition. This is not approaching 0. So that's how I know it's this. So this is saying I'm approaching A. A is what I'm trying to take the derivative of. In fact, you probably should put like an A right here. A is what we're taking the derivative of. So notice this is an E, this is an E. And then up here in the top left is supposed to be the function. So do you see how the function is natural log of x? And then this is the function with that A value plugged in. So the function with A plugged in, what's the natural log of E? 1, which is why they're putting a 1 there. Okay, so now if we look at our choices, they're saying, what are you trying to find, or what does this represent? Which one of these definitions does it represent? So, were we finding the derivative of e, the derivative of 1, or the derivative of 0? E, because it said approaching e. So, we're already to 50-50. And, since this is supposed to be the function in the top left, which one of these two has the correct function? Good. Choice C. So that's, again, you have to, I know you don't have these memorized yet, but you have to have these memorized so that you can look at this and say, to me, this looks like the standard definition. This is supposed to be x plus h. So x must be 9 in this problem if this is x plus h. This is supposed to be minus f of x. So minus, okay, but they're putting a 3 there, so they're already evaluated this. If this is, f of 9 is supposed to be 3, that's not us, is it? I wish I got 10 minutes, okay. So I can see that x is 9 in this question. And if I compare this to the standard definition, I'm not going to flip back and forth, but this stuff that I have highlighted, what does this represent in the standard definition? Okay, f of x plus h. So it's the function with x being plugged into it and an h being plugged into it. So I would say f of x is probably the square root of x. And in this question, they're plugging in 9 there. So they're asking us to find the derivative of x, or I'm sorry, find the derivative of f at 9, which would be plug 9 into the derivative. Square root of 9 should be 3. So again, when I look at this, it takes some practice, but I can tell that they want the function to be the square root of x, and ultimately they're asking me for the derivative at 9. So again, you can kind of see how it's pattern recognition at least. So I'd like you to go ahead and try question 9. Commit yourself to an answer here. Notice they switched it up a little bit. They want to find the derivative of g at pi. And here's the function. Only one of these represent the derivative, either standard or alternative, but only one of those work. So put some thought into that, commit yourself to an answer, and then we'll try to make corrections. Okay, so those choices, do those look more like the standard definition of a derivative or the alternate form of a derivative? To me, it looks more like the alternate form. To be standard, it has to be approaching 0. None of these are approaching 0. So then if I start thinking about this alternate form, again, once you have it memorized, it looks like this. I know that the function is supposed to be right here. So that throws out what two choices? Okay. A didn't have cosine of x there, and C doesn't have cosine of x there, so it can't be that. But these two do, so those two are in good shape. And this is supposed to be minus f of a, where a is the value of the derivative. So, does that look more like B or D? Sorry? I would say it looks like D. It's the function with A plugged in. So if I plug that in, it's going to look like cosine of pi. Now again, sometimes here's where it's kind of frustrating, at least on my end. Sometimes it's going to look like the cosine of pi. D is what we were going for there. Okay, I guess we're done for the day. That computer wants to give up. So we got just a couple minutes here. We'll have to finish that up next time. I think our puzzle for the day is, I showed you this one last time, is that correct? Yeah, you're good to go. Okay, some of my classes saw this one yesterday, and actually there was somebody in each class that was able to give a pretty good explanation, so much easier, not one that takes a lot of work like the last logic puzzle. You don't need to do anything for homework except spend just a couple minutes scanning over the stuff we talked about on that assignment 15, please. Just so it's fresh in your head when I see you on Monday.
Is the answer just chugging them?
Chugging them? If you want to die, I guess. If I told you I had poison in a bottle over here, you would come chug it? Okay, so you chugged the first one and then it was poisonous, and then okay, explain what you mean by that.
So first bottle of milk, give a little bit to the rat.
Yeah.
And then you wait like an hour. Give
Okay.
The next bottle, a little bit of the next bottle of milk to the rat. You wait an hour.
Okay.
And then
he dies eventually.
Yeah. So you have to set a timer, and you're like, okay, it's been 10 hours. Is he dead yet? Nope. Another hour after that, is he dead yet? Nope.
You're just gonna kill your rat?
Yeah.
How many rats do you have?
One. Yeah. Yeah. That's the same solution everybody else came with. Basically, give them all 4 bottles, but space them out by an hour, and then whenever he dies, you know which one, because it was 10 hours apart. So, I don't know if that's the official solution, but that makes sense to me, and that's what the other classes came up with. So, anyway, y'all got about 4 minutes. If you didn't pick up your homework back out of that box, feel free to do that while you're still here. Again, you're welcome to come get that anytime, but we got just a few minutes before y'all can go, so just hang tight.